We should make people think twice and then 2 more times before they run for president, because we are going to hold our leaders to a higher standard. And if you're hiding things or you're corrupt, you're going to be confident that we will find that out, so that you mind your manners and you actually represent the people and you become the best executive that you can and the best commander of the United States military that you can. And so let's just do it. Let's make it official. Let's scare the crap out of people from even wanting to run for president in the first place. And if they want to run, they know what's coming. After year 2, impeachment inquiry. We're coming after you, bro. We're going through all of your stuff, and we better not find anything. And if we find something, you're out of here. Preliminary impeachment proceedings are officially underway for President Joe Biden. Will he be found guilty of corruption in his dealings with his son Hunter's foreign businesses? Will it matter with a Democrat majority Senate? Is this good for the nation? And how do we balance holding our leaders accountable while trying to also unify the nation? We're going to look at an article from Reuters. And I think this is probably a fair article, if not leaning maybe slightly towards Biden's defense. It says on September 13th, Republicans in the U.S. House of Representatives have opened an impeachment inquiry into Democratic President Joe Biden after months of investigations of his son Hunter Biden's foreign business dealings. They have not found any evidence of misconduct by Biden himself. Now, that line, I think some of the Republicans would probably argue with. The White House says Biden has done nothing wrong and Republicans have no basis for an impeachment inquiry. Following is some of the evidence that has come to light. Republicans have accused Biden of profiting from his son's business dealings while serving as vice president between 2009 and 2017. According to the House Oversight Committee, Biden met with some of Hunter's business partners during this time and allowed his son to travel with him on official overseas trips. Devin Archer, a business associate of Hunter Biden, told the committee that Hunter Biden sought to create an illusion of access to his father and put his father on the phone with foreign associates maybe 20 times over the course of about 10 years. Archer said those conversations did not involve any business dealings and he was not aware of any wrongdoing by the elder Biden. Republicans have pointed to an FBI document from 2020 in which an informant claims that the head of Burisma, a Ukrainian company that included Hunter Biden on its board, said it cost $5 million to pay one Biden and $5 million to pay another Biden. According to Representative Jamie Raskin, the top Democrat on the Oversight Committee, the FBI dropped the matter, determining there was no evidence to back it up. The head of Burisma told the panel that nobody from the company had any contact with Joe Biden. Archer told the committee that he was not aware of any such payments. Another Hunter Biden associate, Eric Schwerin, also told the panel that he was not aware of any financial involvement by Joe Biden. Republicans also say they have records of $20 million in payments from foreign sources to Biden family members and their business associates. A Washington Post fact check found that $7 million of that money went to Biden family members, most of it to Hunter, and none of it went to Joe Biden. And so depending on where you're at on this whole thing, again, we live in a very bifurcated landscape. People get really deeply entrenched into their corners. And the Biden impeachment, to even understand it, we have to go back to the Trump impeachment. And the first Trump impeachment was, oddly enough, also centered around controversy in Ukraine and was actually tied to the Biden impeachment that's going on now. This is a very Sparks Notes version of what happened, but Trump had a phone call and he says it was a perfect phone call. It was the best phone call that's ever been. And he was asking more or less for Ukraine to investigate the matter of the Biden family and their potential corruption over there. And he said it in, this is why he got impeached. They said it was a quid pro quo. You give me this, I give you that, in terms of aid going to Ukraine. And so I'm going to potentially hold up some aid unless you do this for me. Or if you do this for me, then I'm going to release all of the things that you want. And the Biden saga in Ukraine goes all the way back to when Joe Biden was vice president. Now, if you are on the right, then you think there is a lot of evidence against Biden and you think that there was nothing on Trump and he shouldn't have been impeached. And if you're on the left, you think the exact opposite. You know, there are some questionable things specifically in Biden's impeachment. The biggest issue seems to be a story that Joe has told publicly. He told at a conference, he talked about getting a prosecutor fired over in Ukraine. It was a prosecutor who was looking into and investigating Burisma, where Hunter Biden was on the board. And so the narrative, through a couple of whistleblowers, through some evidence on Hunter Biden's famous laptop, what Republicans are trying to piece together is the idea that Hunter was on the board to get protections from Joe, that Joe fired the prosecutors to save the company, that Hunter was only on this natural oil and gas company. He has no experience there. He was only there to get access to Joe, to bring in money for the family, and to protect Burisma from anything else that was going on. There is certainly a lot of circumstantial evidence, and what the Republicans will have to do is draw some direct lines there. Now, what I don't think is fair on the other side is for them to say, well, there is no like direct line, Hunter Biden, we haven't found the check that says to dad from Hunter, signed Hunter, right? What's being alleged in part is there's like a money laundering scheme into the Biden family. There are like 20 or so shell companies that they're alleging that the Biden family has set up. That is suspect. And that Hunter was using his dad's influence to make the money, to bring it back, and to pay the family. So to say we haven't found the bank wire that's like, to dad from Hunter, here's your corrupt money, or here's a check that I signed and handed to you, seems a little bit unfair, because if it is in fact a money laundering scheme, you set up the money laundering scheme so that you never have that check written. You set up the money laundering scheme so you never have that bank wire. You don't potentially create 20 shell companies to then do something really moronic and just make an out in the open payment. There's some evidence that came from Hunter Biden's laptop, and the courts are going to have to decide how admissible any of this is. One of the most damning pieces of evidence is some texts from Hunter to one of his kids. And he's just kind of arguing, saying, everyone hates me and nobody really likes me. And, if you want to go move in with Joe, who also worked with pseudonyms like Peter, then go ahead and do that. And here's his last text. I love all of you, but I don't receive any respect. And that's fine, I guess. Works for you, apparently. I hope you all can do what I did and pay for everything for this entire family for 30 years. It's really hard, but don't worry. Unlike Pop, that's Joe Biden, allegedly, I won't make you give me half of your salary. This is from 2019. So don't worry. Unlike President Joe Biden, I won't make you, my kid, give me half of your salary. So whatever you think about this and wherever you land on the impeachment hearings, some of this stuff is going to have to get explained. And the answer is always somewhere in the middle. You can't absolutely pin down and prove this yet. I don't believe you could prove this in a court of law. And impeachment is supposed to be for high crimes and misdemeanors, and high crimes and misdemeanors have a very high bar to pass for you to actually get, what you're trying to get out of that. On the left, this whole conversation that there was nothing wrong with this, everything was perfect, he's done absolutely nothing wrong. I know that the narrative has changed, and he said he'd never done anything with Hunter's business, and now he obviously has. And so no one can admit anything close to reality, but the reality is somewhere in the middle. And the bigger question is, should we be doing this? Is this a good idea for the country? Is this healthy for us that we impeached Trump and it was the exact opposite? On the right, it's like he hasn't done a single thing. It's a perfect phone call. It's the best phone call that's ever been a phone call. And then on the left, it's like, no, this was, quid pro quo, and this was illegal. And interestingly, on both sides, there seems to be this kind of understanding of we probably can't prove a high crime or misdemeanor, but we have the power of impeachment. And so now we're going to use this. When we think about how God views leaders, he has a much higher standard than we do, especially the standards that we are holding today. Here's what Proverbs 16 says. God's verdict is on the lips of a king. His mouth should not give an unfair judgment. Honest balances and scales are the Lord's. All the weights in the bag are his concern. Wicked behavior is detestable to kings, since a throne is established through righteousness. Righteous lips are a king's delight, and he loves one who speaks honestly. This is like the template, the dream. This is what a king should be according to God. God's verdict should be on his lip. His mouth should never give an unfair judgment. Honest balances and scales are the Lord's. And so we don't have kings. We have a three-tier governance. We have the executive, and that's the president. And then we have the judicial, and that's the Supreme Court. And then we have our legislators and our congresspeople and our senators. Those are our leaders. They play one part of what a king would play back in the day. And what you are called to do is to have honest balance and scales, to hold things equivalent. What's so interesting is you will hear right now from sources on the left that this impeachment is a hoax. It's crazy. It's an abuse of power. It's nothing like what Trump did. And it's actually exactly like what Trump was accused of doing, withholding something from Ukraine, the same small country over across the sea, holding something from them to get something from them. It's the exact same thing that Joe Biden is being alleged of. I mean, he said it in a conference, and that's $6 billion, and you've got, or $1 billion, $6 billion, and you've got 1 hour or 6 hours to fire this guy, whatever it was, quid pro quo. So it's like, man, could we just come to the middle and ask some bigger questions like, who are we putting in power here? And what games are we playing? What do honest balances and scales look like in this situation? We're once again in unprecedented water where it seems like we have rung a bell that I don't know we're going to be able to unring, okay? Proverbs says, these also are sayings of the wise, Proverbs 24, to show partiality in judging is not good. Whoever says to the guilty, you are innocent, will be cursed by peoples and denounced by nations. But it will go well with those who convict the guilty, and rich blessing will come on them. So we've decided that the only people we're going to put into power are some level of corrupt, right? And to pretend like we don't have corruption at the top of our government is just absolutely silly. So unless some catastrophic event happens, the people who are going to be running for president and who are going to be our president are either Joe Biden or Donald Trump. Those are the options we collectively have chosen. And the question is, do they uphold this standard that we're seeing that God has for his rulers? And I understand a lot of people don't care about that in our world today, but his mouth should not give an unfair judgment. He has honest balance and scales. All things are equal. Wicked behavior is detestable to them. Can we honestly say that about either of the front runners right now? That wicked behavior is detestable to them. Righteous lips are a king's delight, and he loves one who speaks honestly. So what are we going to do here? My feeling is that the House is going to become like the Oprah method of impeachment. You get an impeachment, you get an impeachment, you get an impeachment. Like, wow. Everyone is going to be impeached from here on out. That's how we're going to play the game. Once they're out of office, we're going to find ways to put indictments about them as long as we have enough consolidated power. If you're on the left, you're going to have right-wing DAs who are going to indict you and try to throw you in prison. And you know, if you're on the right and you leave, you have left-wing DAs. And like, we're setting some precedents that could potentially spiral us towards a nation that is very reminiscent of all of the nations that we have just kind of had a very low view of for most of our history. So what do we do? How do we have honest balances and scales? Here's my idea. Nobody cares about it. I'm going to tell you anyway. I think that we should disincentivize anybody from wanting to be president, and maybe in Congress or the Senate, like at all. If we're going to do this, let's just do it. Like, let's write it in, let's pass a law, let's do something. After your second year as the president, everyone gets an impeachment inquiry.
Wow.
Everyone gets it. You just know it's coming. So you're going to serve 2 years. You're going to be the most powerful man or woman in the world. And after those 2 years, we're going to see what you've done with that power. And the Congress, both sides, are going to have unlimited access to anything and everything that you've been doing. They're going to be able to comb through all of your stuff and look at everything that you've done. Everything's open to them. All of your bank records, you cannot hide anything. All of your communication, any emails. You know, one of the things that has recently come to light about Joe Biden is that while he was a government official, he was using pseudonyms for emails. I don't know how to say it. Pseudonymous. I don't know. I don't know. Not good with words.
Wow.
So he was using emails that weren't his name. He had all these other names. And some of those were allegedly conversations about Hunter's business dealings. And why would you do that? And so you're going to get an impeachment inquiry, and the archives, they can't keep anything from you. You have to have access to everything. And we should make people think twice and then 2 more times before they run for president, because we are going to hold our leaders to a higher standard. And if you're hiding things or you're corrupt, you're going to be confident that we will find that out, so that you mind your manners and you actually represent the people and you become the best executive that you can and the best commander of the United States military that you can. And so let's just do it. Let's make it official. Let's scare the crap out of people from even wanting to run for president in the first place. And if they want to run, they know what's coming. After year 2, impeachment inquiry. We're coming after you, bro. We're going through all of your stuff, and we better not find anything. And if we find something, you're out of here. I think that's what we should do. That would be better. And if you're vice president, you're immediately getting an impeachment query. Let's just do it, man. Let's hold people equal balances, equal scales. You can have your different ideas. You have progressive ideas. You have conservative ideas. That's not the main problem. The main problem is corruption at the highest level of this. And we should be rooting out that corruption to the best of our ability with like everything that we have to offer. I hope you enjoyed this clip from the Clayton Tyner podcast. If you want to watch the full podcast, you can check that out somewhere right around here. And if you want to subscribe, you can do that right over here somewhere. Also, you can follow me at Clayton Tyner. That's Tyner on Twitter and Instagram. I would love for you to subscribe to the channel so you can keep up with everything that we're doing.